Hello, welcome to Podnas. This is a sports show with a Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jarrett Roser. Today, we're going to go over an overall chaotic weekend for the Tulane Green Wave and the Louisiana college football landscape in general. Then we're going to go over a little college football playoff, how we did in that, and with that coming out, and we've got the top plays of the week. Jarrett, how the hell you doing, man?
Good, man.
Nice headphones. What an upgrade. We love to see it.
Thank you. Holiday season, Black Friday deals, new white beats. Can't complain about that. I've got my my homes and aways both ready for any occasion. Any outfit change that I need to make the beats match with, we're locked in. But
I love that.
It's a wild stretch right now. I'm getting ready for these high school state championships. Obviously, signing day bumped up earlier than usual was last week. The portal opened today, and just if you needed any extra spiciness, you add the Tar Heels' pursuit of Tulane's head coach. And I know we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff, but it's just a lot happening right now in a hurry.
And so let's get into it. So Tulane loses to Army on Friday. It was not close.
That's going to be a theme of this episode.
Yeah. Green Wave. Then they get put in the Gasparilla Bowl versus Florida. I guess a somewhat surging Florida team, if in any sense of the word, or a Florida team that's just been playing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah enters the transfer portal. Then there's speculation about Summerall leaving for the UNC job. He comes out and squashes that and then says he's coming back. So let's figure out what to make of all of this, because Tulane 3 weeks ago was riding really high. And now it just seems like everything, it's like, I feel like when you get like knocked over and you get up too fast and then everything's real dizzy and you don't know what's going on.
Little woozy.
Little woozy. Yeah, little woozy.
It's woozy season right now.
It's woozy and wobbly is what I would explain right now. And I think overall, just in the general landscape of Louisiana college football is just a little woozy right now. So let's get into it. What are your takeaways from that? What do you see the Green Wave doing moving forward at the quarterback position, and what options do they have there? And what does it mean for this Tulane program for Summerall to stay?
I think it's a huge deal to have John Summerall committed. To me, as I was watching this all unfold, I'm just thinking about the challenges of being a Group of Five program or a college football program in the modern landscape of the NCAA that is not one of those traditional blue blood powerhouse programs in the big conferences. And you've always had to worry about, if you're a Tulane, if you find a coach that can build you into kind of a next level, a next step in your progression, how do you hold on to that guy for long enough to kind of keep that momentum rolling? And so they dealt with that for years in the Willie Fritz era, kept him a little bit longer than I think folks anticipated at one point, but then he leaves and goes to Houston. And so immediately, like all, Group of Five programs or FCS programs or anybody, you start to think, okay, now how do we make sure that we hit on this next coaching hire to kind of keep this thing going? And that is challenging. And we see it time and time again that when a coach leaves, there's a step back. They nailed the hire last year, bringing in John Summerall, and were ranked at one point this year in the playoff conversation for a stretch of this year. And then suddenly it looks like you may have to try and hit on that back-to-back off seasons, and just the degree of difficulty of that continues to ramp up with each time. Each time you have to hire a new coach is another opportunity to miss, honestly.
Yeah,
and so,
absolutely.
And so I was really worried about that for them. I have been really impressed with their level of commitment to not only get to the point that they're at right now, but to try and continue to maintain and keep growing through it. And so the ability right now to hold off UNC, and I'm sure others who were probably reaching out to Coach Summerall's agent and have him committed moving forward. And part of that conversation has been reported to up the university's salary pool for his assistants to be able to keep good assistants uptown, as well as to up their commitment to the upcoming revenue sharing process with players. And so he's trying to get some things situated to make this, a long-term sustainable situation. And I think that's the overall takeaway from all of this is the encouragement of hanging on to him, avoiding having to go back into the college coaching carousel. But at the same time, you're seeing them have to deal with a quarterback loss that you mentioned with Mensa heading to the portal, announcing it Sunday through his people. And that's a guy that had few college options coming out of high school in California, and Tulane identified him, saw something that hardly anyone else in the country did, and gave him a chance. He redshirted, and then as a redshirt freshman, he's starting the entire season, start to finish, but still is not a guy that you can hold on to because bigger programs are throwing money around. And so that's challenging. You kind of like we talked about Bryce Underwood, you got to do what you got to do. You can't fault the kid a whole hell of a lot. He's trying to set up his life and chase what he thinks is the best opportunities. But at the same time, you'd kind of hoped maybe there might be a sense of this was the team that took a shot on me. Maybe that means enough to kind of hang on. But it sounds like conversations of keeping him there just got complicated. And so he's looking elsewhere now. And that's just going to be, part of life for all these schools, and particularly for a program that's trying to ascend and isn't already at that mountaintop.
It's a weird landscape. Now, is there any rumbling about Mekhi Hughes leaving? I know he's only a sophomore, or is he looking like he's going to stay? Because he's been, I think the motor that kind of made that engine run for this Tulane Green Wave all year, and he's been incredible. So I would think if, Mensa is getting those calls as well, that, people in the coaches in the college football landscape aren't stupid. And so you see someone with that much power and also speed and stuff like that. I can only assume that he's getting calls as well.
Yeah. You run the football like that, folks kind of take notice around the country.
Yeah.
I haven't heard as much about Mekhi for as long as I had about Darian through a lot of this season. And that's a whole other deal that is an aggravating part of where college football is right now, is that, look, the portal opens Monday, December 9th, but there are back channel conversations happening pretty much year round. And so I told you, while, we as NBA fans watch teams get docked draft picks because of tampering issues, there's year round tampering happening in terms of college football dynamics. And I'll just leave that at that and not dive into specifics about any programs or anything like that. But I was hearing about Mensa stuff early on. I've heard some rumblings about there's going to be opportunities for Mekhi Hughes, and I'm sure Tulane right now is having conversations to try and keep him uptown because he has been such a huge part of that team since he took over that job early last season.
Why can't they get all that transplant Connecticut money? Just like have some of their students call mommy and daddy and have them, have them get that New England money down here. All right.
They have done.
I know one of them got to know Robert Kraft. Like, let's just have them make a call.
Send out a student body emails like who has loose sixth cousin connections to Robert Kraft in the student body.
Yeah, just send like a coupon for a free massage. Like, it'll be fine. It'll be great.
Tulane has done, and I think folks outside of this market down here probably don't have a great sense of would expect that Tulane, as a non-Power 4 conference team, maybe doesn't have as much flowing right now and is going to have trouble keeping anyone. But they have seen some really good progress the last couple of years in terms of, positioning themselves to be a player in the modern landscape of college football. And so I think some of these, when we talk about conversations to keep John Summerall in place, conversations to try and keep Mekhi Hughes, et cetera, some of those maybe a couple of years ago wouldn't have been conversations at all. It would have been bolt to the big Power 4 conference team. But I think they are positioned now to have some conversations. And they were active in the portal last year to get some really good guys from some Power 4 schools to come to Uptown. And I think they're positioned to continue to maintain a solid roster year in and year out. It's just, at the end of the day, there's kids leaving and coming and going from every program around the country, regardless of how much.
TJ Finley is going to be on his 5th team, by the way.
Yeah.
How much? Remember him, LSU fans? Yeah.
how much money is flowing around college football right now, how much of a musical chairs game each of these rosters happens to be at this point. Tulane is not immune to that, but is also not out of the game of being able to compete within that at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the Power Four conference team that is in Louisiana. It's a big one. LSU. They also had some players leave. Can you update us on that? Or enter
Yeah,
the transfer portal?
and I know as soon as I start trying to list, I'm gonna forget somebody because it's they're up into double digits now. I think when you and I had talked last week, it was at 7. I think they're up toward about 12 now. Just trying to pull up the list that I probably should have had ready ahead of time, but they what's been interesting is that there are guys that have entered the portal that when I was kind of doing my preliminary depth chart for next year and thinking of what guys could be in rotations in some spots, there were a couple of guys who maybe hadn't done a ton yet, but I had viewed as intriguing young pieces to potentially step into some bigger roles this year. But I think it's important for fans too to keep in mind that guys enter the portal for a laundry list of different reasons. And so some guys maybe see bigger opportunities elsewhere and make that decision of their own volition. There are guys that enter the transfer portal because honestly, programs are making moves in other directions and trying to bring in better players and more experienced players. And so as much as folks want to see everybody go to LSU, LSU's only got so many roster spots, and there are some numbers game dynamics that play out as well. And as much as we're watching some guys enter the portal and head elsewhere, I was reassured again this weekend talking to some of the coaches over there that they are about to be very active in the portal. And I said, yeah, I mean, you guys are positioned pretty well. Just, hit on a few guys in some key spots, like 5 or 6 guys, and was told, we're going to do a lot more than a few. You're going to have a lot to write about over the next month. And so as frustrating as last week was to see news continue to trickle out of folks leaving, we're only just on the front edge of who's going to be coming. And that's going to be, I think, far more exciting. All indications are that it's going to be far more exciting to watch that news over the next month than the past week has been frustrating.
I was going to say it is frustrating just to see somewhat of feels like an exodus from recruits and transfer portal guys. So as a fan, that just makes you nervous, because like fans shouldn't. They don't know what is going on behind the back door.
Yeah.
So only having so much information, I don't fault an LSU fan for being
No,
antsy about
all you're
where.
seeing are the one way right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So just pump the brakes a little. Stay calm. Take a
The
deep breath.
the confidence level in that building right now that the transfer portal for them is still poised to be a really big net positive. That confidence level is really high. And we'll see, just like we talked about coming out of signing day, we'll see what this next month holds. And if they do ultimately position themselves to be a legitimate contender next year at a college football playoff level, potentially a national championship level. But there's big confidence that they're going to take some necessary steps here shortly.
Okay. Well, hey, I trust you. Okay. Let's also cover the Cajuns. Cajuns also lose on Saturday. It was also not very close. They are going to be playing TCU in the New Mexico Bowl. A laundry list of injuries just kind of piled up on the Cajuns here late. What is it? How it? And also, you were there. I knew I should have gone. I knew I should have switched my pick. I absolutely knew I should. As soon as you said you were going, I was like, "Oh, that's a red flag." So,
Yeah. So
are you allowed back in Lafayette? Is that, or are you on a permanent hiatus for?
I don't know if they have a full handle on how bad how badly my appearances to Cajun Field went for them, because they're kind of sprinkled out at different points. But they're did they lose Were they a 3-loss team this year? Was that the final mark? So I
Yeah.
was there for those. The three FBS losses were all me. I saw them go 1-3 in person, and that one was against an FCS opponent to open the season. And
Yeah.
so I apologize for whatever part I
Thank
had
you.
in that.
I was gonna say, yeah, it
You
is your fault. So
you I mean, if you want to consider it me bringing bad luck, maybe it's just the pressure of being the Louisiana versus all y'all college game of the week around
that's
the state is
that's what
just
it
tough.
is.
It
That's
comes
what it is.
with bright lights with this iPhone 13 or whatever it is that comes to town. But it also just means the games that I show up to, regardless of which program it is, are games that are obviously typically more challenging games. And so they had some tough games go against them. And this was a conference championship where a Marshall team came to town with a really aggressive and impressive defensive front that got after the Cajuns in a big way. The O-line struggled. We saw Chandler Fields, a guy that we have praised so much the last couple of weeks, to keep that thing going when Ben Wooldridge, who was having a great season, a conference player of the year season, for him to go out, Chandler Fields to keep it rolling was such a great storyline and for that program and for Chandler. And then we have to watch him leave that game on Saturday. And suddenly the freshman that I've been watching since he was in seventh or eighth grade, and he's been playing since he was baby Beal as a freshman at Catholic High Baton Rouge. He was not someone that they were expecting to have to throw in for the bulk of a conference championship game as a true freshman in college, though. But he held his own. That was one of the bright spots, was him coming out confident and slinging and not shying away from the moment. But there were not a whole lot of bright spots.
No.
Chandler went out. Robert Williams had to get carted off as well. They had a few other guys get banged up, and just not a whole lot went right for them on the field for 4 quarters. And so Marshall is
Yeah.
your Sun Belt
I
champion.
mean, yeah, it's like they just got caught under a herd, a thundering herd. They got
And
Mufasa. They got Mufasa. That's what happened. That is
what else?
actually
What else is tough is it took me a second to put it together, but it's the Sun Belt Championship, and it's hosted by the school that had the better conference record. But ultimately, a lot of it ends up being kind of neutral site game management type situation. And so as I'm walking to post game press conferences, as the Cajuns just lost on Cajun Field, I'm hearing thunderstruck happening through the audio. And
oh
so
man, that's rough.
that's a tough way to end that night too.
Oh, that is really rough. Oh man, I bet. Oh, that's I would hate that. I wouldn't do it. I would lose my job. If I was the PA person at that stadium, they'd be like, "Okay, well now you have to play the song." And be like, "No, I don't have to do it. You can fire me. I ain't doing it." All right. Oh man. So what for all of these, I guess, overall losses, um how would you rank let's rank each like Tulane, LSU, UL, 1, 2, 3 about optimism, I would say, moving forward. I think we've kind of decided that maybe LSU does have that optimism. I think being the biggest in the flagship program, with even with everything that has happened, the transfer portal is looking like it's going to shape up to be very busy and active season for them, which is cause for excitement. Then I would maybe go Tulane. I think keeping Summerall, and then, I mean, having the paddy wagon out for UL and having that happen on their field with everything that we just talked about. I think that would be my 1, 2, 3 for level of optimism. But I don't want to be the ultimate pessimist here, but I think I am. So
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think all 3 programs are ultimately optimistic about where they are and the directions they're heading. The Cajuns had a really strong season this year, and I think it was a season they needed to have. Some folks after 2 years ago, or after last year, uh, were kind of doubting them and kind of ramping up the pressure a little bit, and they responded and had a really strong year this year, and will bring back some key pieces to next year's roster, including the young freshman quarterback that they're really excited about. And I think you also look at just kind of the sliding scales of expectations and pressures as well, where I think next year, if LSU and Tulane have identical seasons, LSU fans are going to be ticked off about it potentially, because they expect to win a national championship pretty much every year, and anything shy of at least making the playoffs is a disappointment. Where Tulane is still kind of building to that point, and I think they will go into next year to, theoretically, if things go the way this offseason that they anticipate and would like to see, that they want to be a playoff team next year too. But I think they also have a little bit more leeway and understanding of some patience and some things of that nature, partially just because of the routes to the playoff are that much more challenging. And
Right.
so there are a lot of variables at play. And I think there's reason for fans of all three programs certainly to be really optimistic. Just kind of different flavors of optimism in each area.
Okay, I like that. Different flavors of optimism. That's what we love to see, So let's move on because the playoff did get set. And we are now at the end of this college football regular season. We did a little thing at the beginning of the year where we drafted who would be playoff teams. Just like in the pick'em, Jarrett, you're gonna take a landslide victory. Don't rub your hands, man. Don't do this to me.
This is as much as this is like a Birdman thing or whatever. This is also just a family thing. Whether you're nervous, excited, bored, cold,
no,
this is
I
everything.
understand this. But when you do this, it does become a Birdman. Whenever this is oh yeah, this I recognize. I see.
This is
once you get the.
This is a.
You get a little swag with it, a little rizz.
You want to get weird. This is a decade ago on a Sunday night in Crazy Horse energy right here is what this is. Yeah, tell us how this went.
Take it to church. Well, what happened was that you won, but we did get 9 out of the 12 playoff teams. You got 6, I got 3. You got Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, Penn State, Clemson. So stupid. And Boise State. I got Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame. I still have a legitimate shot to win the overall. I think I have three. I think my 3 teams are going to go further than your 6. Okay. I just do. Maybe. Who knows? Me saying that Notre Dame's going to lose to Indiana. Texas is going to lose their first game.
Who are your 3 again?
Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Oregon's pretty good. We just saw Georgia beat Texas again, and so I'm feeling pretty good about the Bulldogs and the Buckeyes and their relative chances, despite some of their ups and downs this season, including the Buckeyes coming late in the season. We'll see how it goes, but I do think my money right now would be on Indiana to go upset Notre Dame if I had to call a shot.
Listen, I'd be okay with that. I really like this Arizona State team. Cam Skadbu is just amazing. He's so much fun to watch. If you haven't watched him,
do you like him so much that you picked him before the season?
You're a real.
I thought you were going to be too worried about having to go back and bleep it out that you were going to censor yourself.
No, I'm not. Curse jar me. All right. It's Christmas. Let's add some for the kiddos. I have lost both. So I would love to hear from you guys, and we'll put this as a social post. What should I do as my punishment? We're coming as a call to you. Or we're going to come up with something that is, I think maybe me singing on camera poorly.
No,
do you want me to do that? No one wants that. I know, but I don't want to do it. So what you think of something, we'll put it out to the people. We'll see if we get anything good. And next week, at the beginning of next week's show, we'll have a little I suck at picking sports punishment for me. So yeah, that'll be fun. Let's move on. There's been a lot of negativity today, so I think we should end with a positive note. Let's get into these high school plays of the week.
This was the semifinals, and so 3 of these plays helped push teams on to this week's Superdomes. Superdome state championships. One of the plays was a team that came up short on the end of it, but still at the end of a historic season, and the play is just bonkers. And so we included it in there nonetheless. Give those guys some credit. Starting out, though, a play that went a long way in winning a semifinal. Catholic New Iberia was down late, scored, went for 2 in the lead, didn't get it, but did get the ensuing onside kick. Bennett Boudreaux, the kicker for the Panthers, and Chris Green there, a couple of seniors, trying to rewind it so you can see it again. Chris Green does a nice job on this recovery, tips the ball to himself, and then recovers it. So a hell of a job by a couple of seniors there to send the Panthers past Calvary Baptist up there in Shreveport and back onto the Superdome. These two teams have met now 4 different times in the playoffs since Calvary Baptist joined the LHSAA years ago. And the winner the previous 3 instances has won the state championship game. And so that bodes really well for the Panthers to potentially go on and win another state championship.
All right. Next up,
the Bunkie Panthers, who were in the semifinals for the first time since 1988, since we were little babies. These guys came down here, gave top-seeded undefeated Dunham a hell of a game. Dunham ends up remaining undefeated, finishes the game strong and advances. But this is how the Bunkie Panthers came out swinging in Baton Rouge on Friday night. Quarterback Dylan Compton taking the snap here, gets the ball to Kane Milligan, back to Kyle Johnson, double reverse, up Dylan Compton on the flea flicker, and downfield to Maury Perry for a touchdown to take the early lead. And so you have a double reverse flea flicker pass right out the gates. We know how much our fans enjoy the double passes.
Yes.
And they had all kinds of things happening there on that play for Bunkie.
The camera couldn't even keep up.
Yeah. Shout out to the folks shooting these as well. The first play was from 318 Sports, Joel Rogers up there in Shreveport. This one was from Spencer Verrett of LHSA Network. And then continuing on, we have from the TV game of the week for Your View and Cox Sports, the Cecilia Bulldogs, the Road Dogs, heading back to the Superdome for a second straight year. Diesel Solari takes the snap, fakes the little jet sweep, gets it down to Braylon Kyle, makes a guy miss, trucks a guy, accelerates, and is gone for a touchdown as the Cecilia Bulldogs stretch that lead.
No shot
in the second quarter against the Plaquemine Green Devils. The Bulldogs had battled injuries throughout this year, were a lower seed, 18th seeded team, went on the road 4 straight weeks in the playoffs and got wins against some really, really good teams to head on back to the state championship. That kid right there, Braylon Kyle, a sophomore that we will be talking about for a long time because he's going to be one of the top players in Louisiana's 2027 class when he comes out in just a few years. And then speaking of some talented sophomores we're going to be talking about for a while, speaking of teams heading back to the Dome, Central of Baton Rouge, blocked field goal by DK Mays, gets that big Houston Cougars signee paw up on it, and then Marvin Joseph Jr., the wherewithal to snatch it up and head, I believe it was 85 yards the other way. They were up there in Monroe at Bill Ruppel Stadium, the haunted Bill Ruppel Stadium at Neville High School that has traditionally been a really tough place for folks to go play and come away with wins. Not for the Central Wildcats. Back-to-back playoffs going up there and upsetting Neville. You see it again.
Wow.
This one from KNOE up there in Monroe. And DK Mays, the Houston signee, the senior, gets his paw on a field goal that would have stretched the Neville lead to 16-10. Instead, after the extra point, you're looking at a 17-13 lead and a 17-13 win for Central, who heads back to a state championship game for the first time since 1966, when we were not even babies. Our parents our parents were adolescents, maybe babies. I don't know birth years on people, but
my mom was an adolescent. My mom was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, I think my dad was 10. My mom was 5, if I'm not mistaken.
My dad at that point was a weathered man. So.
Your dad was a weatherman. I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, he was a weatherman at that point. So
Nick Cage.
That is our high school plays of the week. If you would like to vote on these, they're going to be up on our Instagram, podnas_LA. Go give us a follow over there. Check them out. We also have a bunch of stuff on the Louisiana versus All Y'all YouTube page and the Louisiana versus All Y'all Twitter. It's LA versus All Y'all if you want to find it on there. Go follow us on socials. If you stuck around with us this long, we really thank you. Please like, comment, share the video. We'd love to hear from you. Hear what we got right. Hear why I'm wrong. Any of that kind of stuff. And thank you again for sticking around with us. It's holiday season. We appreciate you and appreciate letting us do a little nonsense with some sports talk in there. So, Jared, do you have anything else for the people before we get out of here?
I just realized I apologize if I was getting loud there down the stretch. I realized I was getting real close to the mic. I get excited about the high school plays. I get excited about Weatherman, Nick Cage. And so, yeah, if I started to ramp up in volume a little bit heavily, I apologize.
But we love it. Hey, don't ever apologize for that. You're talking to me here. All right. I'm consistently loud on this microphone. So that is all we got for you today. Come check us out next week. We're gonna tell you who won the plays of the week. We'll also give an update on everything Louisiana sports because that's what we do here.
And this a ticket talking margin for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta